Welcome to Austin Eras, the podcast that unravels Austin's transformation into a 21st century boomtown and explores its potential future. Brought to you by Collective Advisors, Austin Eras takes you on a journey through the city's evolving landscape and rich history, offering insights into its dynamic past, present, and future.
Welcome to the Austin Eras podcast. I'm excited to introduce our guest this week. His name is Jonny Rodgers. He's partner agent of Austin real estate company Den Property Group. He's a graduate and state football champion from Westlake High School. Football runs in his blood, more on that later. A graduate of Texas Christian University. And Jonny's done a lot of really interesting things since he showed up in Austin. He co-founded the Austin Young Chamber back in 2009. It's an impactful and strong organization today, 15 years later. You never know where you may see Jonny next in Austin, but be warned, he's everywhere, and he has a heart for charity, children, the underserved. Jonny won 2 Austin Under 40 awards in 2015. Normally you just can win 1, but he won it for real estate, and then as the overall Austinite of the Year back in 2015. You may recognize Jonny's voice as he spent time as a broadcaster on Horn FM. Some may even call him the unofficial mayor of Austin, but we might just call you Citizen Mayor. We don't want to get Kirk Watson mad at you. So. True. I'm Adam Flagg, host of Austin Eras, and we're just going to explore the past, present, and future in so many different ways with Jonny today. I think a lot of the fun in talking to Jonny is just the variety of stories and the different things that you've done. And I think what I respect most is your passion for the Austin community and how you've taken that passion so far as to intersect across professional, personal, just the passion lines of what you've done. You found a way to kind of weave it all together. So I think when I first thought about potential Austinites to have on the podcast, you were one of the top people because I felt like you'd really fit our show in that way. I think the hard part is going to be distilling this down to one podcast because we could probably talk for hours here.
I've been here a minute.
So I think we'll have some fun. I want to start and just kind of talk about community leadership.
Sure.
Because you went to school. You didn't necessarily grow up in Austin, but you came here pretty quick. You went away to TCU. You went to high school here, went away to TCU for college. You came back.
Yeah.
And I think community leadership is something that I feel like sometimes is lacking. I don't want to call Austin out, but I feel like there's maybe a little bit of a lack of depth on the bench for leadership in Austin. And you stepped up in so many ways. Tell me a little bit about like how that all began and what got you there.
Well, I think it begins with our family life, the Rodgers family. My dad was a football coach, and so the life of a football coach is interesting because if you're a good football coach, you're probably gone in 3 to 4 years. You're going on to the next spot, doing something else or at another school. If you're bad, you're also going somewhere every 3 to 4 years. So I was born in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Okay.
Dad was the head football coach of a small junior college up there in Grove Heights. And then did really well, then became the head coach down at the University of Evansville in Evansville, Indiana.
Sure.
So I grew up playing in a lot of those gyms from the movie Hoosiers.
Okay, all right.
And so, me and I have 2 older brothers. We're all 1 year apart, so super close, and played sports against them, obviously, and all of that. From Evansville, Dad ended up at the University of Illinois, his alma mater. Champaign, Illinois. So was there for a few years, and then we ended up in Austin, moving here when I was in the 7th grade.
Okay.
And so he was on John Makovich's football staff here at the University of Texas. He was the recruiting coordinator. So his job was really helping get the players to Austin and into the school and hopefully coach them up well on the field. But growing up in that atmosphere, you really don't ever get a sense of, I don't want to say belonging, because in all those different cities had great friends and all of that, but you don't really have any roots, right? So like coming into Austin, like I was the new kid, and the way that I got friends and met people was through athletics, playing basketball, playing baseball, playing football, all of that.
Sure.
And so, when we got to Austin, it was the first place that really felt like home to me. I also feel like through my friend group and the experience that I had at Westlake, not only in football but basketball as well. I was a basketball player too. Had to quit baseball at some point to kind of focus. but felt through that friend group that, hey, this feels like home. And so going back to the community leadership aspect of it, I always tried to live a life of service. That was very important to me. And, just kind of moving along once I graduated from TCU and came back, I got a quick introduction into the YMBL, the Young Men's Business League, from a good friend of mine, William Page. And he just said, this is a great organization. One, you're going to meet a lot of people your own age, do some great networking. At the time, I was in the title business, real estate title. And not only that, you're going to discover what the Austin Sunshine Camps are all about. And so I didn't really know much of what that was about. I just thought to myself, oh, here's a chance to meet some new people, really start developing my network. I mean, if you look at the YMBL and the current business leaders, I mean, almost all of them have had a stint, not only just being a part of the YMBL, but taking a leadership role. I would say that, through athletics growing up, I just kind of, the leadership aspect of being a team leader always made sense to me. Like, I try to do things the right way. When your dad's a football coach, you don't talk back to the coach. The term being coachable is a real thing. And so I always just try to be coachable, try to take that leadership role. I was playing against your brothers who are a year and 2 years older than you, that's good competition. And so they'd beat the heck out of me, playing basketball, football, baseball, and all of that. And they made it really hard. So I was always going up against better competition. So when I would get into the role of playing guys my own age, I felt like I was a little bit a step ahead of most. And so, I was gifted being an athlete and having that great competition. And so just, translated that into my, civic life and trying to not only, I didn't like when people would just join an organization. If you're going to join an organization, get involved.
Yeah.
Take a leadership role. Even if it's not president, vice president, it's, you can be the team leader of fundraising, show people how to do it. I think, one thing about coaches is that at the heart of it, they're teachers, right? And so I felt like, my mom was a PE teacher. Okay. So at Valley View Elementary School.
That's where my kids went.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right.
So, being in that environment, two parents who are teachers, I just kind of understood like that, respect authority. And also, when you get your opportunity, you take the most of it. And so, for me, when I went to school at TCU, coming back, I knew that this is where I wanted to be. Austin was home to me. And so I didn't know exactly what I was going to do when I graduated. I think a lot of people, they go to college and they have a specific field that they want to get into, whether that's business, could be law, could be doctor, whatever it was. I was a speech communications major.
So was I, and here we are doing a podcast.
Right. And so I always felt like if I could understand how to communicate with people, that could really, you could teach me a job to do, but the ability to communicate, not only to, voice your opinions, but I think a big part that a lot of people miss is listening. So when I have conversations with people, I really try to zero in on some of the things that they say, whether that's things that they're interested in, a favorite color, a favorite team. So when you have that next conversation with them, you have a direction that you could take. Hey, how the Cowboys doing this year, Texans or Stars,
it's
whoever
an opener,
it is.
Essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a much better way of beginning and continuing a conversation with people. When you're moving around a lot as a kid, if you don't have a lot to say, you're just going to be the guy in the corner that nobody knows and you're new, right? And so, I didn't realize it at the time, but moving around as a kid and having to make new friends every 3 to 4 years ended up being a skill set that really served me well moving throughout my life.
Yeah, I mean, you were lucky to be the son of a coach in
no
a lot
question.
of ways, and you've applied those skills across your life. And I mean, you were good at athletics. You're bound to be good at athletics, but because you're son of a coach and you're around sports. But you also have strategy.
Yeah.
And coaches have strategy, and
No
that's
doubt.
exactly what you utilized in making friends and communicating and making connections.
You go into situations with a game plan.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and you do your best to try to execute that game plan. And for me as a kid, it was, I wanted friends. Like it is, you notice in the coaching world that, my dad doesn't have hundreds of friends. He has 2 or 3 really close friends that he coached with.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing with my brothers now. They're football coaches in the NFL. And their friends, for the most part, are my friends because my friends keep coming around local, in the state of Texas and all of that. Some live in Houston, Dallas, and Fort Worth. But, for the most part, like I have a lot of really good friends from high school that I still talk to all the time. And it's really served me well in being a local real estate agent and having that network of friends and people who know me, people that trust me. Because as a real estate agent, the people that you're going to get the most business from are the people that know you, love you, and trust you.
Yeah.
Right. And they're going to talk about you to their friends. So, having that local friend group has really served me well in not only my professional life, but when I go out and about, like I see a lot of people that I know. And so if I have somebody that, a new client in town and I go to a concert with them, hey, let's go see a show at Moody or Stubbs or Antone's or wherever. And I know, like 10, 12 people at those shows, they're like, God, who is this guy? Like, how does he know so many people? And it's just, I think once you've been in one town for that long, you just get to know people. So again, going back to the leadership aspect of it, I think a lot of that is just your sphere of influence. The connections you make. I try really hard to stay in contact with people. I think as you get older in life, people have different responsibilities, families, work, and all of that. It's really hard. So if I'm driving up to Fort Worth, I got 2.5 hours where I can just get on the phone and just checking in. How are things going?
Good for you.
How's the family life? Work's going great. What do you got going on in your life that I can help you out with, or can I be a contact for you or whatever? And the other aspect is people that I know in those parts of the state, they know that I dropped anchor in Austin and I'm not picking it up for just about any reason. And in my profession right now, both real estate and starting to dive into the world of the food industry, which I know we're going to talk about here in a little bit.
Yeah.
People know that, hey, you're coming to Austin. Jonny should be there. If it's football season, I might be, venturing off to Atlanta or Arizona to go see my brother's games, or as they've, bounced around the NFL as football coaches, they've been in Denver, they've been in San Francisco, been in Chicago, Carolina. So, I enjoy traveling in the fall to go see their games. I'm not going on like Thursdays and Fridays anymore because I got other responsibilities here in town. So, I try to go see a couple UT football games. Got some great friends that are still involved with UT athletics. And then hopefully, maybe Saturday night or Sunday morning, get up, fly out, go see the family, go see some good football, and hopefully my brothers win the game.
So it sounds like, if I had to distill it down, your community leadership is based on developing deep relationships and friendships with people and really maintaining them and building that network.
Yeah, and I would say, again, it goes back to my family being football coaches, is that you learn at a very early age that you're loyal to people, not to a institution or a particular football team. Mm-hmm. Right. So I tell people, they're like, who's your team? And I was like, well, whoever's paying my brothers or paying my friends. Right. And we have friends that are in the coaching world as well. So I'll cheer for their teams as long as they're not going up against my brothers.
Yeah. Brothers win out.
Yeah. Always.
We've interwoven community football already, and I have tons more questions in this space. I want to go back to when we met.
Okay.
We met in 2008.
Yep.
We were both in our 20s at the time. Mm-hmm. And we met through the Young Men's Business League. Yep. As you mentioned, Austin Sunshine Camps, fundraising for them, going to these lunches. But you and a couple other people all of a sudden said, hey, we like YMBL, but there's this other organization I think we should form. Yeah.
So we eventually created the Austin Young Chamber. And it wasn't anything against YMBL, but if you get involved in different organizations in town, for me, YMBL served the purpose of being able to give back to the community and networking, right?
Yes.
And I tell people, I was like, you should always have 2 organizations that you should really get involved with. One should be something that, pulls at your heartstrings, something that you care about. And for me, that was the Sunshine Camps, because one of the things that you do within the YMBL, not only are you raising money for these kids to go to camp, but you're also going to pick them up.
Yeah.
And taking them to camp.
That's life-changing.
And it is. And so when you pick a kid up, you meet at a local school, their parents come, make sure everything's checked out and all of that. And then the kids come with you in your car and you're driving them to the Sunshine Camps. And when you drop them off and you come back that night for, I think it's carnival night.
Yeah.
And they come running up to you and they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And the stories that you have with the kids in the car, there's times that, you're driving across Town Lake going into Zilker Park and they're like, what's that?
Yeah.
And you're like, what do you mean? That's Town Lake. And they're like, I've never seen Town Lake before.
Ditto.
And you realize that you're just like, how fortunate I have been. And the kids that we're serving are kids that are, had some really tough upbringings, and their family situation isn't a great one. And so to be able to give that week of a free camp to them at no cost to them, and for them to be able to meet other kids, to do outdoor activities, learn some skills. They're kind of networking, I would think. They're making friends and all of that. That really hit home to me, and that was great. The other aspect of it is that I think you need to be involved in an organization that's really helping you advance your career.
Correct.
And it's a business networking. And although that was an aspect of the YMBL, it's in the name, Young Men's Business League. And so it was like, all right, when I'm working with people in real estate, it's not always guys, right? There's women involved too, a lot of the times, most of the times. And so we felt that there was a niche of a need for an organization that was business related, And so we had heard about the JCs, which is Junior Chambers, and that was a national organization. In fact, the JCs back in the day in Austin put on the very first festival, which was called Aquafest.
Oh yeah.
And so Aquafest was this great down on Town Lake at Auditorium Shores.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like your mini carnival. There was vendors. There was always a music group playing. They had different nights. One was country night, one was Tejano night, one was hip hop or whatever. And so you would go to that festival and really enjoy yourself. Well, JC's went away for whatever reason. And so in Austin, but they were still a national organization. So we started kind of going down that road with them. We got an introduction into the Austin Chamber and kind of told them what we were trying to attempt to do, create another professional networking group for young professionals. And they really challenged us that, hey, why do you want to join another group that dictates your programming, what you're doing, and all of that, where you could create something that really fits what y'all are trying to accomplish. So a couple of us started the Austin Young Chamber and, just really kind of dove into that and, created a board, had a lot of really good people that we had met through just our networking, and, created the board, hired Melanie Plummer to be our executive director. And when she came into the room and gave us her spiel, I took every resume, threw it in the trash, and said, "You're hired." She just knocked it out of the park, and I'm forever grateful to Melanie and the work that she did with us. Yeah. And we did our first event, which was a happy hour at a sushi bar downtown. It's not still around. I'm blanking on the name of it, but we had 600 people show up.
I was there.
And there was a line around the corner.
I remember.
It was right off 4th Street, maybe Colorado. And we did this, and we were just blown away at the response we got. That we hit a niche that there was definitely a need for. And so then we started building out programming and what we wanted this to look like. There was absolutely a charitable component too. In fact, we did a nonprofit fair, was one of our first events, and I think they still do something similar to that.
Give Back and Get Loud, I think. Yeah.
And so, we just created it. I was the president for the first 2 years.
Okay.
And then, like anything else, you need to let go of the reins and let other people step up and develop their leadership styles. And we had pinpointed a few guys on the board, girls on the board, that we felt like, hey, this would be a great person to kind of take over. And then as I transitioned out of that, I still stayed involved to some extent, but It was kind of my time to let somebody else do this. And now that organization is thriving. It looks almost nothing like what it was, just like anything else in the city of Austin. Very thankful, and it was a great experience for me. Really happy that we went through that.
So like 15, 16 years in, this organization's still going.
Yeah.
I think I know who member number one was.
Yes, you were.
Yeah.
I remember getting your phone call, and you were like, I don't care whatever the cost is, I want to be involved. One of the reasons why when you called me about this, I was like, absolutely, no questions about it. I want to do what you're doing and any way that I can help out, because you were the first person that saw what this could be and the potential, and you raised your hand. So,
well, yeah, I remember, I think, meeting you and Melanie Plummer at like Panera, and you were talking about the concept of it, and I went, wow. Yeah, Young Men's Business League does its great thing, but Austin Young Chamber fills such a need. There's workforce development that happens in that now. They're working on city issues, and they have people getting more government and civically engaged.
No question.
It's really changed a lot. And to start it, the poker tournament was a big thing back then. Yeah,
the poker. We did that at it's now Quince, I think, but it was on the lake right there. And that was a time that I was involved in the Real Estate Council of Austin, RECA, had an LDC class, leadership development class.
Okay. And
they had raised, money. That's part of it. You got to have an event and raise some money. And so the previous years they had raised, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000. And, I just kind of said, listen, if we want to raise $2,000, give me a couple hours, I'll go out and knock this out, that way we can move forward. But at that time, if you remember, like the World Series of Poker was like a huge thing.
Oh, yeah.
Just came on to ESPN. Chris Moneymaker won $1 million in the first season. And so poker became this thing. And so with the LDC class, we had done a poker tournament for that. And the following year, the LDC did it again. And they, I think we raised like $8,000. And so, but the third year, RECA did not let them do it again because sponsors wanted to sponsor the poker tournament, and they were kind of shying away from the other big events that RECA was doing. So it was kind of cannibalizing the money that RECA was making for themselves to keep all their program running. So they wouldn't do it. So I was like, guys, this thing has been a great fundraiser. We could do it for the Austin Young Chamber. And again, we sold out, and, we got local businesses to donate prizes and all of that. And it was just it was a really fun event.
Great time. So I remember this. You did that was your foray into broadcasting.
Yeah.
You were doing the poker tournament, and that turned into an opportunity years later with the Horn FM.
Yeah. So at some point in my professional career, and I think as a real estate agent, I learned a lot from Will Stakely, who's one of my business partners at Den Property Group. And what I noticed about Will is he had like 8 to 10 different businesses he was running at the same time as he was running his real estate career. And so I kind of got into what we eventually called Red Carpet Austin. And I was planning, another thing, just observationally, notice that you look up and there's just hordes of people in large groups coming to Austin for bachelor and bachelorette parties. And so I knew how to have fun in this city. And I would tell you that I don't think there's anybody who's had more fun in the last 20 years than me in Austin, Texas. And so you notice that people are coming here. So I started this side hustle of Red Carpet Austin. And part of that, to kind of spread word, is that I knew some guys up at 104.9 FM The Horn. Bucky Godbolt, who was a football coach with my dad at the University of Texas.
On Makovic's staff,
yeah,
right?
On Makovic's staff. He was Ricky Williams' coach, and then eventually was trying to be Ricky's agent at some point. I got out of coaching, and then he ended up on the broadcast with the Horn. Aaron Hogan was somebody else I had met a few times. So on Wednesdays, I would show up on their morning show and tell people like what was going on this weekend in the city of Austin. What bands were playing, like where these bachelor and bachelorette parties spending their time. I think I sent more groups to Ranch 616 because I think that's just a great restaurant here in town that it's good local food. I kind of tried to figure out what people wanted to do, going on the lake, and all of that. And so got introduced, started doing that on the radio show. And then at some point, they had started a show with Casey Studdard and a guy named Lyle Senline, both UT football players on the Vince Young national championship teams. And Lyle wasn't going to be doing it anymore, and so it was Casey, and they had another guy that it didn't work out with for various reasons. And so Aaron Hogan calls me up, and he was like, hey, how'd you like to do a Saturday morning radio show on the Horn? And I was like, yeah, like I think I could speak to football. I mean, that's really what people want to talk about is football, in particularly the University of Texas.
Yeah.
And so just kind of using my knowledge of sports. Casey, in addition to being a former NFL player with the Houston Texans, he was a barbecue pitmaster. And so we would incorporate barbecue, local happenings, UT sports, and whatever the heck else that people would call in and want to talk about. Now, a lot of times my friends would call in and ask some interesting questions and try to embarrass me. And I just turn around and like, hey, cut their mic, and do all that. But
live radio.
We had fun with it. There was the only rule that Casey and I had, and this was Casey's rule, no script.
Yeah.
Like we just went in, we would, look at ESPN.com, have a few things that you'd want to talk about. I would do some prep on Friday nights, prepare a little bit for the show. Again, not scripting anything, but knowing that chances are if, Texas was playing TCU or Baylor or Tech or something like that, learn, do a little research on the opposite team, do a little research on what's going on at Texas, whether it's a controversy, quarterback controversy or whatever. Just having a general knowledge and being able to speak to that. Me and Casey, eventually brought in some other people on the show and just had a lot of fun doing it. I mean, it was for me, and my friends would be listening, mom and dad would be listening too, and, all of that. And, they'd come up to me afterwards or whenever I'd see them next and be like, hey, you're okay at this. Like you're pretty good. And so, I really enjoyed the show. It eventually, a couple years ago, about two years ago, the radio station just called it.
Yeah. I turned on 104.9 one day and it just was dead air.
Yeah. And so, got off the radio and then it really became, I missed it, to be honest with you. And so I knew that Westlake football, where I went to high school and was fortunate enough in 1996 to win the first ever state championship at Westlake. They had been to the state championship a few times, but had never gotten over that hurdle. Called those guys up and said, hey, I'm interested in continuing to do something with the broadcast if there's an opportunity. So last year they invited me to come and really shadow them, in the booth. Jim Knox of Fox Sports Southwest fame was doing the sideline reporting. And so most of the time I'd be down on the sidelines with him, just observing. What are you talking about? Why are you going to talk about that? What questions do you have for coach at halftime? And he was really instrumental to me in learning kind of that role. And so this upcoming year, I will be, Jim's got a son, Austin, who's a backup quarterback for Westlake, really good little player. And so he wants to be a dad. So this role was open. And they said, hey, Johnny, we think this could be a good role for you. And I said, let's go. So
that's amazing. Here
in about 2 weeks, I will be the sideline reporter of Westlake football. And it'll be really fun. I mean, they not only do they broadcast it over the airwaves on the radio, but there's what's really cool that Westlake has done is we've got a jumbotron, in the end zone, and so they broadcast the game and the feed to the jumbotron. Also, KXAN.com carries the feed as well, so people from around the state that want to watch Westlake football can get on and listen to Joe Taylor, who's the main, play-by-play guy, and can watch all of that. And so, yeah, I'm super excited. It's something I've never done, but, I'm going to go, head first and see what we can do.
You'll do great. Now, if someone wants to tune in and listen on the radio, what station is on?
So you go to the SHAP app,
okay,
which there's a Westlake app that you can get on. I'm not, and I should have done my research before I came in. I'm blanking on the actual dial, the radio dial that you can do, but the easiest way is to either get on KXN.com, go to download the SHAP app on whatever you download, whatever phone service you use, and but I would even encourage people to come to the games. Like, there is nothing like Friday Night Lights in the state of Texas. I mean, they've made movies about it, they've made TV shows about it, And so, I think that's a really cool thing. The community shuts down. Everybody heads to Westlake Stadium, and come get a taste of what Friday Night Lights is all about.
Calling all Austin business professionals and community leaders. Revitalize your after-work plans, and let's kick off a new tradition with the Austin Social Circuit. Join us for an evening of networking, great food and drinks, and even better company. Expand your circle, enjoy a laid-back vibe, and connect with like-minded Austinites. It's all happening the first Thursday of each month, with locations alternating between North and South Austin to keep things exciting. This initiative is powered by Collective Advisors. Find out the location of our next gathering and learn more by following Collective Advisors on Instagram and LinkedIn. Bring a friend, share the fun, and strengthen our Central Texas community. See you there, Austin.
All right, so Jonny, let's talk a little bit more about community involvement. Obviously, you've done a lot of things. We're going to circle back to it again, but I want to talk more about community first.
Yeah.
What's going on over in East Austin, as well as what the homeless community look like here in Austin as well. I know for a fact you live downtown.
Correct.
Tell me a little bit about that, because I know when COVID hit, a lot kind of changed downtown.
Yeah, absolutely. So I moved downtown to the high rises in 2008. My building was the very first one. The truth behind why I moved downtown was because if you think back to that time, there was no Uber or Lyft, right?
Yeah.
And so it was yellow cab. And so basically, if you were going out and having beers and all of that, there really wasn't a safe way to get home, because the yellow cabs would come up and be like, "Where are you going?" And I'd be like, "Oh, going over towards Barton Creek Mall, where my old condo was." And they'd be like, "Yeah, not far enough." And they'd leave. So, I was like, well, I could buy a place downtown, and that way, if, I had a few beers, I could just walk home, right? So in the downtown urban setting, and, back then you noticed, a couple of people experiencing homelessness. You kind of had your regulars that you would see. I mean, we even go back to Leslie, she was a fixture of the Austin community, but you would see that, or a couple, and then all of a sudden, right around COVID time, there was an explosion of people experiencing homelessness in downtown Austin. I mean, I would walk out of my condo doors, and you couldn't walk 20 feet without seeing somebody lying on the ground. And I saw everything from people doing drugs, people defecating, urinating, all those things. And it seemed to me like there was a better way. We needed a way to address this. And so I had done some work through my real estate company, Den Property Group, a few years prior to that. Alan Graham and Mobile Loaves and Fishes had started the process of creating a neighborhood of tiny homes where Austinites experiencing chronic homelessness could go and have a cheap place to live. This isn't a free deal. They pay monthly rent, a deposit, and all of that. So we had gotten involved. There's a dynamic group called Icon, and they are 3D printing homes here in town. And they actually just built a community, Wolf Ranch, up north. It's a full-on community of 3D printed homes.
Really?
But at the time, they decided to they built 6 homes out at the Community First Village.
Okay.
And so they had asked, I'd known a few people involved with Icon. They asked us if we would step up and help furnish the homes. So we made a donation, and we were able to get some furnishings into these tiny homes. So we'd go out there and we'd see that. And to be honest with you, the first person in the world to ever live in a 3D printed home was a homeless person from Austin, Texas.
It's amazing.
Which was amazing to me. And so we started getting more involved with them. And eventually they decided to build some they're considered condos, but more townhomes over in East Austin. And I was fortunate enough through that relationship of furnishing those homes out at Community First, I got the listing for these 3D printed homes. So feather in my cap, I actually sold the world's first ever 3D printed home right here in Austin, Texas.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about the composite. How did they do that? What's that actually look like?
So it's a proprietary concrete mixture that they use. They refer to it as lavacrete. But it's a dynamic way, because if you think about it, we haven't changed the way we built homes ever. It's sticks and bricks. The material has changed, but essentially it's the same process. And what Icon decided to do was that they figured out through robotics, AI, and all of that you could, they have a printer, a 3D printer that is this large machine that they tell it what to do, and it builds the walls of a 3D printed home. Now, they still have to go in and build the roofs and the finish outs and all of that, but eventually at scale, it becomes a lot more affordable rather than having a crew of 30 people building a house. They have one guy and a computer with this machine that will lay this levels of, lavacrete. And so they've done that enough times. Now they've got deals with NASA. They're going to be building structures on the moon.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to be sending a printer up there at some point, and they're going to be doing some pretty wild stuff. It's a revolutionary way to address affordability, because that's a bit of a crisis that we have not only here in Austin, but all over the world. And concrete stands up a whole lot better than, wood and other materials against natural disasters. You think about possibly building homes down in New Orleans or some of those areas that are prone to hurricanes. Mm-hmm. And so, it's just, I was fortunate enough to know some of those guys, get involved with them. And so, but really the best part for me was it took me out there to Community First and really get to know what Alan Graham and those guys were doing to treat a problem that exists. And you're never going to be able to solve that problem. There was a time where our city council and mayor decided to lift the ban on homeless camping anywhere in the streets. So that's when, the time I was talking about where you'd go and you'd see, somebody, lying on the ground. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way. And so, my charity of choice right now has been Community First. And this is kind of a cool deal. A couple years ago, I had been introduced to a guy named Bijan Robinson, who's a heck of a football player.
Yeah, he's a decent running back.
He's now with the Atlanta Falcons, where actually my oldest brother is a coach. He's the defensive line coach there now. But Bijan is an individual that I met through one of the coaches at UT, a guy named Stan Drayton, who's actually now the head football coach at Temple University.
Okay.
But my brother's a coach with Stan. I had a relationship with Stan, and when he was recruiting Bijan, and when Bijan came to the University of Texas, he was like, you got to meet this guy. And I was like, absolutely. So I got a chance to meet Bijan, Clarissa, his aunt, and the whole family. And when you meet Bijan, you know a couple of things. One, his faith is the strongest, he has the most incredible faith, relationship with God, and he has such a pure soul and really, dives into his faith a lot. And so this was the time a couple years ago that this NIL stuff was coming around in college football, name, image, and likeness. And so what I wanted to do was I didn't want to give money. I didn't go to the University of Texas. I went to TCU, so I didn't want to give them a bunch of money. But what I did want to do is I wanted to create a nonprofit NIL deal that we ran through the Den Foundation, my company, Den Property Group. And so what we did is we did the Den 5 for 5. And so Bijan was number 5. And so for every yard he gained the last year he played here at the University of Texas, we were going to give $5 in his name to Community First Village.
That could get expensive fast.
Yeah, it did. And so I think when it tallied up, it was just north of $9,000. We rolled up and we ended up giving $10,000 from the Den Foundation, and Bijan had actually donated $5,000 of his own money. So we were able to present these guys with a check for $15,000, which helps. And really, it was on top of the money, it was a lot about awareness.
Yeah.
Because I really felt like, if people became more aware of what Alan Graham and these guys were doing in East Austin, it would really help kind of elevate their profile. And I feel like we helped in that. And what was really cool is this past off season, Bijan came back and donated $300,000 to Community First. I didn't know anything about it. I pulled up my computer one day and looked on Twitter, and it said, Bijan Robinson donates $300,000 to Community First Village.
I mean, for a rookie, I don't care how much you get paid. That's not pocket change.
No,
that's
it's
a
not.
substantial donation.
Substantial is a key word there. And, he could do anything with that money. I mean, you got a lot of these guys that this is life-changing money for these NFL football players. And the fact that he's giving back to a local Austin community speaks volumes to the type of person he really is.
So, I mean, that's really impressive, and I'm impressed that Den did that. Tell me a little bit more about Den Property Group. I mean, I've had the privilege of being in your offices a few times.
Yeah.
You have the greatest office on the planet because it's on the same block as the W.
Yeah.
It's on the same block as ACL Moody Theater. Mm-hmm. How do you score that office? And tell me then maybe a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when we knew we wanted to be somewhere downtown, our original offices were actually one block east of I-35 on 6th Street.
Okay.
And so, but we knew we wanted to be in the main central business district. And at the time, I don't know what the rules are now, but you could not have office in the retail center, like on the first floor retail, because they wanted more, foot traffic. And so it needed to be a business of some sort, not necessarily an office. So we were not an office. We were a art studio that brought together art and real estate in one space. And so we actually it was a gallery, an art gallery, and we would bring in different artists. We'd rotate that, and we'd have art shows, and we'd have a lot of fun with that. And then eventually now it's more of an office, and it became a gallery for some of the different projects that we've done. We did the sales for the Austin proper, the condo sales. There's 99 units on top of the Austin proper hotel. We did 70 Rainey, which is a very dynamic, cool building over in the Rainey Street district. And then now our most recent project, the Linden, is right there at about 16th and Guadalupe. And it's kind of in that space that there hadn't been a whole lot of development. There is now. The Graduate Hotel's going in over there. There's a few other hotels. So you're not on campus, but you're close to it.
You're real close.
You're not on the Capitol, but you're right off of it. And you're not in downtown, but you're also very close. So it's a very walkable area. And so, I would say that Den, our specialty is high-rise sales from a project perspective. Mm-hmm. But, our agents, they come from all over the city. And so as a real estate agent, first and foremost, a lot of times you become that connection to the city, and it's not just selling somebody a home, it's getting them going in this city, right? Like, where do people go eat? Who are the doctors out there that, who are the attorneys? Like, where do I need to, go out to eat? All those different factors. I mean, you really kind of become that connector to the city. And so being downtown and I encourage people, like, if you don't know where you want to live, start in the middle. And then, spend your weekends going to check out different neighborhoods and things like that. But obviously growing up in Westlake, I know the area really well and sell a lot in that area as well as Central Austin. I try not to get too far out of, Central Austin, because a lot of times I think as agents, you're like, oh, I really want, I need to sell, because we've had some ebbs and flows in this town. And when times are sales aren't happening as frequently, you might tend to take a listing that's a little bit further outside your comfort zone. But, I would prefer, and we encourage our agents to do the same, refer that out to another agent that knows that area. I'm not doing anybody a service. If I'm trying to sell a house in Kyle, I don't know that area that well, but I can find it. We've got plenty of agents within Den that live in that area. So I'll send, the client to them, and they know the area a lot better than me, and it helps the client, it helps the other agent. I make a small little referral fee on that. And so it works for everybody.
I've heard Den has more than one office location now. Is that right?
Yeah. We ventured in here to 78746 right here on B Caves Road, 2244. It used to be an old Mr. Gaddy's site. It wasn't a dine-in space. It was really for delivery. 459-2222. Get a Mr. Gaddy's pizza delivered. I was trying to get the number, see if we could keep that number, because that tune, that jingle is just classic old Austin. I think it's still, most people order pizza off your phone or, through an app or on the computer now. But yeah, so we're venturing over here to Westlake, and we're looking forward to getting our sign up here pretty soon and to really get back more into the Westlake community.
So it's across from Trader Joe's, essentially, on 22.
Yeah, Trader Joe's on the same side of the street as the Finish Line Car Wash. And, it's a cool area right behind Rolling Wood.
Yeah.
And we're looking forward to getting that one open.
So, a few other things I want to chat with you about.
Sure.
2015 was a long time ago, 2009 years ago.
Yeah.
You won the Austin Under 40 Awards that year in real estate. I won in finance. We won the same year.
Yeah.
You stole the Austin Out of the... No, I'm just kidding. You won the Austin Out of the Year. It was incredible, really, for your commitment to community. And here you are 9 years later, still going strong. There's been no resting on your laurels. What was that experience like for you? What's Austin Under 40 like for you?
Well, it was an interesting... I'd been to Austin Under 40 a few times, had never been nominated. But it's a great event in itself because you got the best in Austin in all these different categories coming into one space, and it's fun to throw a tux on or a nice suit and go out and shake some hands and do all that. I was nominated in 2015, and to be honest with you, I really did not think I was going to win. In fact, my parents. My dad was throwing my mother a surprise birthday party down in Florida. They spent some time down in Melbourne, Florida, and her birthday is March 7th, and that was the same night as the Austin Under 40 Awards. And so my dad calls me. He's like, "Hey," he's like, "you going to win this thing? Like, what's going on?" I was like, "Dad, there's not a chance that I'm winning this thing." Leon Chen, Tiff's Treats, he was in the mix, and I was like, "There's no chance that I can beat out Leon Chen." Like, Tiff's Treats is an Austin institution.
It is,
and I'm a big fan and have ordered plenty of box of cookies from those guys all the time. But as it turns out, I did win the real estate category. And so when I got up there, I told everybody, I was like, my parents, they wanted to come. Like, my mom started having some, trepidation about not being there. I mean, they have been great parents. They've been, supportive of me for my entire life. I could not have asked for better parents in that sense. But I also, my dad had gone through the trouble of organizing this big birthday party or whatever down in Florida. So I was like, don't worry about it. I'm not going to win. So I win the real estate category. And so I got a couple chuckles when I told the story about, don't come, I'm not going to win. And then, that was a huge honor. And I think more than anything else, it was validation of the things that I had been doing and the people that I had surrounded. I always say, surround yourself with good people and the rest just kind of takes care of itself. It was a really cool experience. And again, I go back to, I did win the award and put forth, a lot of efforts in the different things that I do, but you have to surround yourself with good people.
Yeah.
And you have to lead with your heart, live in a life of service. That always steered me in the right direction. And so fortunately I won that, and I still on my email signature, I still like to, send that out, 2015 Austin Night of the Year. I get some flack from my friends. They're like, "Johnny, come on.
It's getting a little old now."
It's 9 years ago. Like, it's time to, I was like, but 10 years is right around the corner. And so looking forward, I'll go back for the 10-year anniversary, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And probably take my mom and dad, and just so they could kind of take that in, and that'll be a cool thing. But that was a huge honor. Austin Under 40 Awards it's another, I keep saying it, but it's an Austin institution. And I think it's the best of what Austin has to offer, because it's not just what people are doing in their profession, but it really wraps in the nonprofit, the charitable side of things. And for me to take home the trophy that night was a huge honor.
Well, it's the youth of Austin that shares so much excitement and opportunity for the next generation where we are.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's actually where we're going to go here in a second with the rest of our conversation. But one thing I've always noticed is no one does it. No one wins Austin Under 40 that set out to win Austin Under 40.
Oh, yeah.
It is just a product of the passion for the community that people have.
And I don't know who nominated me for the award, but somebody did.
Yeah.
And, I was like, wow, that's really cool. Like, I've been to the event a few times, and now, Michael Dell won, 1 year. Kendra Scott's been in there.
Yeah.
Like, the who's who of Austin, Texas.
All of them.
And, I think it leaves a legacy of what Austin is really about. Austin has changed a lot over the years. It was a small hippie town back in the day that was known, it became the live music capital of the world. You know why it became the live music capital of the world? Because the rent was cheap and the drugs were cheap. I'm serious. And that's why Janis Joplin and that whole crowd back then, they came to Austin because you could afford to live in Austin and make a living as a musician.
Yeah.
And so that itself has changed a lot. Austin is now probably the most expensive place to live in the state of Texas. if not the number one, pretty high up there. And the affordability issue has been major, because now if you're a musician, it's hard to make a living in this city.
Yeah, you got to live in Kyle Butte and commute in for
Absolutely.
your gigs.
I mean, you got people who live out in Bastrop, people that live up Cedar Park, and some of those other outlier areas. But that wasn't the case back then. But I think, having all those musicians come to Austin and really set a culture of what Austin was about. It's a good time. Heck, that's why we started Red Carpet Austin, is because people started coming here because they knew that if they came to Austin, they were going to have a good time.
Yeah.
Right? And so now, you can absolutely still have a good time, but it's a little bit more expensive. You're going to spend a lot more at dinners. And that's one of the cool things that I think the evolution of the city of Austin. We're now such a foodie town. Yeah. It really, I think, kind of kicked off with Uchi, Tyson Cole, and some of these other places. And now you've got the McGuire Mormon Group that has come in and built some really good restaurants. Larry Foles, my favorite restaurateur, Red Ash, ATX Cocina. He started Eddie V's back in the day.
Yeah.
Eventually sold that off. And so now Tumble 22 and some other really good spots. But, for me, I've been loyal and true to Maudie's. If I'm going to eat Mexican food, Tex-Mex, that's exactly where I'm going. You're going to go to Matt's El Rancho. You're going to get some Bob Armstrong. You're going to have some Mexican martinis. Yeah. But I think when you grew up here, you're kind of loyal to those. But as the city's evolved, some of those old school spaces have gone by the wayside and shut down. So we've missed. Threadgill's was a great spot. Good with chicken fried steak down there. And there's some others that have too. But at the same time, I always laugh with my brothers, because when they come to town, they point to a building. They say, "What's that?" Every time there's something new has popped up, but also something has replaced, those old spots. And so the food scene in this town is incredible. And I tell people, I'm like, Austin's changed. And I was like, well, yeah, but you've changed. Everybody has changed. Adam, you've changed in the last 15 years yourself. And so, it just kind of goes with the sign of the times. And fortunately, we've attracted, new people to come to the city. The mass exodus from California to Austin, Texas, was real, and that was happening a lot. And it slowed down a little bit, but for the most part, Austin, Texas continues to create jobs through the work of Opportunity Austin that Gary Farmer and the Chamber of Commerce created. They actually went out and raised money. People think that people just show up in Austin, Texas because they heard it's cool. No, there was a proactive measure, go out, raise money from the business community, and then Gary and all his guys would go out and recruit companies, corporations, to move to the city of Austin, tax incentives and different things like that. But the quality of life of Austin, Texas, you think about how many things there are to do. You got the University of Texas and football and basketball and baseball and all that, but you got Barton Springs, right? Like my favorite place in the world. You got the hike and bike trail. You got the Veloway down south. You've got all these different things, Lake Austin, Lake Travis. Now, Lake Travis is a little bit lower than it was back in the day. Yeah. But you can still get out there and do some wake surfing. Wake surfing's, I think, what a lot of people enjoy doing now. And so, as times moved on, the evolution of Austin, I think, sets up our city to have a lot of success.
So you've taken us through your own story from your past into the present.
Yep.
Now we're looking at the future. You're talking about food, and I'm going, there's more to just the food scene than what you mentioned. You have your own entry into the food scene.
Yeah, this is true. I will be late last year. A friend of mine had started a burger franchise called Small Sliders, based right out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And so I had noticed, this is Drew Brees we're talking about, that he's kept posting all these things on his Instagram about these sliders. And I called him up and I said, what are you doing? Is this like your new go-to? Are you involved in this? He's like, yeah, we started this franchise. And I go, oh, okay. I was like, well, do you have somebody in the city of Austin to do the franchises here? And he said, it sounds like I'm talking to him. So a couple business partners and me bought the franchise rights here in Austin. It is a really cool concept. It's 2-lane drive-through, no indoor dining.
Okay.
So it's kind of a Chick-fil-A. You want to get them in and out as quickly as possible. You can walk up and order out of a window. There's a couple tables outside. So if, mom's got a Suburban full of kids and they don't want to eat in the car, you can get out, stretch your legs and eat outside. But our buildings are shipping containers. So we're not actually building, a brick and mortar. We're dropping these cans right there on site, and then you build out the drive-through and do all that. But what's really cool, it's the simplicity of what we're doing. The only thing on the menu is cheeseburger sliders, French fries, milkshakes, and Cokes. That's it. Simple. Kind of Raising Cane's was started in Baton Rouge, and I think they kind of saw that and saw the simplicity and how well Raising Cane's has done. I mean, Todd Graves, the owner of Raising Cane's, is the wealthiest man in the state of Louisiana.
That's crazy.
It's nuts.
Really? There's one around the corner, and it's always packed.
They're everywhere, and it's such a cool model. And so Drew and a guy named Brandon Landry had started a concept called Walk-Ons, which is a Louisiana sports bar, bistro type deal. Notice that their number one seller were their sliders. And so Brandon got back in the lab, perfected the slider. It's meat, cheese, bread, pickle, and our secret small sauce, which we call Smoss.
Okay, Smoss.
So
really? I don't
that's
know if
it.
Is that catching on? Smoss.
Smoss is. It's really gone viral. And then we have a Pantone color S'morange that we've got. So it's a really fun brand.
Yeah, I can see that.
And the only variation that you can get on the burger is you can double the patty, which we call the Biggie Smalls. So a little throwback to Notorious B.I.G. And the only thing you can add to it is bacon, because Drew Brees loves bacon.
That's it.
That's
so
it.
It's like a brand that Drew has created, and you
Yes.
get to be an ambassador here in Austin.
Exactly.
And create this.
And, I feel like, Austin being his hometown, we can really tell that story. And on top of that, the burgers are fantastic. They're smash burger cheeseburgers. The Smoss is out of this world. We got queso that you can dip your fries into.
Okay.
So, it has a little Southwest flair with that. And then we've got the milkshakes. We got the Dreamsicle, the Orange Dreamsicle out right now. That's been a huge hit with people of the locations that were already out. So over the next couple of years, you're going to see a lot of Smalls popping up, not only in Austin, but really throughout the South and Southwest.
So if someone was holding out hope for a Smalls here in Austin, how long, when do you think that's going to kind of happen?
So definitely a new learning experience for myself.
Uh-huh.
The city of Austin and permitting and doing all of those things, you're looking at about a 6 to 9 months to get your permits to get rolling. And then after you get all the permits in place, then, we drop the can right there on site. We'll have a big, can drop day, and that'll garner some attention. And then really it's about, 12 to 16 weeks after we drop the can that we're live.
Okay, so we can next year, sometime in the next year.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be 2025. And right now we just signed our first location. Can't exactly divulge the exact location for certain reasons. But we've got right now, I just came from a meeting, we've got 7 sites in our site. And we're moving forward like gangbusters, and I cannot wait to introduce the Smalls brand, the Smalls sliders to Austin, Texas.
It's gonna be really exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like we're kind of getting we're getting the scoop here on the podcast.
The
about
inside
Smalls.
scoop right here.
I love it.
Mark my words, Smalls sliders. We're gonna give Pete Terry's a run for their money.
Take that, Patrick Terry.
Yeah, we got a ways to go before that, but like I said, it's a really cool brand. The fact that we're using shipping containers, very high quality ingredients in our food, we think that we're going to make a big splash.
I love it. Now, the sliders, if I buy one, is one enough? Are they small? Do I need to buy like 3?
Well, I think you need to buy the number 3 or 4 where you get multiple sliders with it. So kind of in the mode of Raising Cane's, you can get the 1, 2, 3, or 4 Caniac combo, I think is what they, different levels. But I mean, I think 3 to 4 is really the sweet spot. So I'd encourage you to buy a few of them.
You're upselling me already.
Yeah,
it's not even open yet.
Okay, don't forget the shake. The
Orange
shake's
Dreamsicle.
Key. Yeah, Orange Dreamsicle.
Okay, so rapid fire now. These are the questions I'd love to just ask you. We'll talk about the present. What's exciting you about Austin right now? Where are you at? Where are you spending your time? What's giving you hope about the future of Austin?
I think, we talked a little bit about the culture changing, something that really has always been evident, but Austin has really become an active city, like a physically active city.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas back in our day, I feel like people would go and have happy hours.
That was it.
Now there's running clubs that people are going to in masses. And so I feel like, as we've kind of learned more about what alcohol can do to you and the problems that, come with that, I really feel like, Austin has kind of changed its way and is really embracing, getting healthier.
Yeah, healthfulness is a huge factor.
Yeah, I mean, nutrition is huge. Juice lands all over the place. But yeah, I think that's, Barry's has come into here, like all these different, workout spots. You see the Orange Theories and a lot of private training. I've got a trainer and I use this new methodology called NewFit, where they're electronically stimulating your muscles as you're doing workouts.
Hold on. Does that really work?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Really?
No question. Like I had some back issues. I was in a car accident about 5 years ago and it hurt my back. And through the use of NewFit, it shocks your muscles and won't get too much into the weeds with the science behind it, but it activates the muscles that go dormant when you get hurt, and they're doing the job of what the other muscles should be doing. But it really activated my body, and I would tell you that NewFit and some other, there's similar concepts along those lines. I mean, you're still doing the workouts.
Yeah.
I got to get my cardio somewhere. That's where Barry's comes into place. And that's also where the hike and bike trail, Lady Bird Lake, I mean, you'll see me down there probably about 4 or 5 times a week.
Okay.
I haven't gotten back to running yet. I'm a nice fast walk. I'm not doing the Olympic style fast walk, but throw on my headsets and listen to some good music or a podcast or two. I'll probably be listening to this at some point next week or whenever this comes out. But yeah, I think that gets me excited about what's happening in Austin.
So that's where you're spending your time personally, professionally. Here's a good one. What's your favorite story to tell about Austin? When you're traveling, when you're out and about and someone says, "Hey, Johnny, you're from Austin," what do you tell them?
Well, I mean, I think first and foremost, I try to explain to them that Austin's a lot different than the rest of the state of Texas.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like, it was built around music, the capital, the University of Texas. So I think it just creates this really cool dynamic where you come to Austin and to me, it still feels so small.
It does.
Like it really you're 2-3 degrees of separation from just about anybody in town. And so I think the word has been out about Austin, and now you bring in Austin FC. We got our first professional sports team in this town. You got the Austin, the Wranglers. We got a pro rodeo team, and not to mention Circuit of the Americas, F1 races.
It's amazing.
I mean, when F1 was announced, this is kind of cool. When F1 was announced that it was coming to Austin, Texas, and the Circuit of the Americas was being built, it was the most publicized in all the papers and in the media that Austin had been since what other event? Do you know what that event was?
No idea.
The JFK assassination, because JFK was leaving Dallas and coming to Austin. And so it was in the papers all over the world when that happened on his, coming to Austin. And so when COTA was announced and that was built and F1 was coming here, I mean, I think it took Austinites and the rest of really America. When F1 wanted to come to Austin and Texas, it was like, oh, wow, this is a big, big deal. I mean, you've got, royalty coming in for these things.
Yeah.
And I think this year they've got, past years, I think Britney Spears played.
Eminem this year.
Eminem's coming up this year.
Sting, I think, is the other one.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking world-class entertainment. And then when you throw in Austin City Limits, the television show, and the festival, I mean, Austin really, it's still, I don't know if you could call it the live music capital of the world anymore. I mean, I've gone to Nashville, and you look at Broadway and Broadway to me is what 6th Street really used to be like.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're gonna give away that moniker of being the live music capital of the world, but I would say that we're getting like huge acts. I went and saw Kings of Leon last week.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. I was looking forward to seeing Aerosmith come and play, but Steven Tyler got hurt, so they canceled that
Retired
entire tour.
for good.
Yeah.
No, they're done. That's
they're
crazy.
done.
Yeah.
And so I'm still looking forward. I think I got Mount Joy coming up next month, and then Usher in October.
You're going to Usher.
Oh, my gosh, yes. No question. I grew up on hip-hop and R&B. First concert ever was MC Hammer back when we were living in Champaign. But, looking forward to seeing Usher come to town. That's on the heels of ACL Weekend 1. It's on the Monday night after that.
Okay.
So it's exciting. Texas goes into the SEC.
That's so big.
We got Georgia coming to play.
Yeah.
Like the level of excitement. I always say that Austin, Texas is a better town when the University of Texas football team is good. And what Steve Sarkisian and these other coaches are doing, they have the experience. They've won national championships at Alabama. Texas has never had a coaching staff like this, including, my dad and Makovic and those guys. Like I have very, love those guys, and that was great. And I'm very thankful that brought me to Austin, Texas. But what Coach Steve Sarkisian has going on at the University of Texas, it is rolling. And I can't wait. I'm not going to say they're back. That was kind of a bad deal when Sam Ellinger said that a few years back ago. But if you look at what happened last year, being in one of the first college football playoffs, now we've got 12 teams. Yeah. So Texas should absolutely be in the mix for that. Quinn Ewers leading the way. You got Arch Manning waiting in the wings. They're producing and bringing in all these big-time recruits to the state of Texas and Austin. It is a really good time to be here in Austin.
Preseason number 4.
Yep.
That Georgia ticket's going to be ridiculously expensive.
It'll be the hottest ticket the city's ever seen from when LSU, I think the most recent one is when LSU and Joe Burrow came to town. That was a tough ticket to get. Before that was Ohio State came to town.
Yeah, I remember that.
On the heels of Texas winning that national championship. But and the other great thing, and I know not a lot of people in Austin, they're not going to say this, but I am so excited that we're playing Texas, that Texas is playing Texas A&M again.
Yeah, that's huge.
That game in College Station this year, I mean, one, it'll be expensive to get in. That'd be a hard ticket to find. But I grew up on that game. Every Thanksgiving, I knew that Texas and A&M were playing. Been to College Station for that game. Been to Austin, obviously, for that game. I mean, those two teams, they're the flagship universities of the state. If you ask anybody in Austin, it's definitely Texas. And if you ask anybody in College Station, it's definitely A&M. And the rivalries you got in the city, across the state, bragging rights for the next year.
Yeah.
That is going to be electric, and I can't wait. Hopefully I can finagle a ticket.
I think A&M actually has quite a few grads in Austin too, so it's a pretty tight A&M versus UT here in town.
I've got a few business partners that are Aggies, and they're licking their chops. They can't wait, because College Station, Kyle Field is a hostile environment.
Yeah.
For an opposing fan section to come into. Then you get on the heels of Texas getting Texas A&M's baseball coach, Jim Schlossnagel, came here to the University of Texas after leading A&M to the College Baseball World Series. So you got that happening. You got the rivalry is renewed. Texas has got a great team. A&M's got a new coach, Steve Elko's coming into College Station. He's kind of got the machine going there. So you add all of that together, and this year will be at Thanksgiving, College Station. It will be rocking.
Between high school and college football, you're going to be very involved.
Yes,
this is going to be a hot fall for you.
No doubt.
So this is almost not that great a question because I can sense and see your passion for Austin the entire time we've talked.
Yeah.
But the question I want to ask every guest is thinking about the future, thinking about your life and the way you live and the way things are. What's going to keep you in Austin the next 15 years? What does Austin have to do to change? What does Austin have to do to stay the same to keep you feeling good about being here and not ever considering going somewhere else?
It's a great question. And what I would tell you is, when I got back here to Austin from TCU, I dropped my anchor. And it's going to be really hard for me to pull that up. I just think that it's such a dynamic city. It's ever-changing, and I like that about Austin. It's not the same place that it was 10, 15 years ago. Yeah, there was a lot of great things that were happening back then. But if you look at Austin and the way that we're really leading the state, creating jobs, new places to eat, but you still have the nuts and bolts of what I love about Austin, and that's Barton Springs, that's the hike and bike trail, and really it's my friends. Like right now I've got a lot of friends that their kids are coming up in the Eanes School District. So when I go call a game at Westlake this year, there's a few players on that team that are the sons of my buddies that I played football with at Westlake.
Full circle.
So to see them now coming back into the fold, and it's bringing all of us back to Westlake in a way, that's really just kind of, it's revitalizing. Like I get energized watching, the success that the football program's having. Friday Night Lights, again, it's just, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like Austin, Texas on a Friday night. Now, you could say the same thing at pretty much any city, small town across the state of Texas. It is such a cool, unique experience. And the fact that Westlake's rolling again brings a lot of excitement into my life. I'm really looking forward to getting back over in the mix over there, being on the broadcast, and continuing to help people in their transition to moving to Austin by selling them homes and being that connector to the city. I've got a great base here. I've got an incredible sphere of influence, a great group of friends. And so really, I would say that that's what's going to keep me here. Like, I'm not leaving. Like, eventually I might go out into the hill country a little bit when I retire. Things get a little bit too pricey, but the excitement of launching Smalls and bringing that to the city of Austin, I can't explain to you how excited I am about this opportunity that I have with them, with Smalls. And I think people are going to really enjoy the concept. And, I think that's what's going to keep me here.
I love it. I love the passion. I love the excitement. Thank you so much, Jonny Rodgers, Den Property Group, for joining us today on Austin Era's podcast. It's been such a pleasure having you here.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Austin Eras, featuring Adam Flagg, is brought to you by Collective Advisors. Collective Advisors offers investment advisory services through CWM LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Guests on Austin Eras are not affiliates of CWM LLC, and opinions expressed by guests may not reflect those of CWM LLC. This show is intended for educational and entertainment purposes and is not intended to provide specific legal, tax, or other professional advice. For a comprehensive review of your personal situation, always consult with a qualified professional.